Hi guys, welcome back to Ask the Doc, where we ask simple questions and I break it down, essentially all medical things. If I don't know the answers, I'll look it up for you and try to explain it to the best of my knowledge. So I had a friend kind of just give me this video out of TMZ because it surrounded some medical content. He wanted me to elaborate a little bit about it. Basically, it's the car crash by Errol Spence. I don't know anything about him, but I know that he's a boxer and he likes to drink and crashes Ferraris. But anyway, let's go in. The quick video is from TMZ that explains it, and I'll do kind of like a reaction thing and explain more detail.
When you see this video, you immediately know why this wreck landed a world champion boxer in the ICU. Surveillance video shows Errol Spence Jr.'s Ferrari flipping several times early this morning in Dallas. WFAA's Kevin Reese walks us through what happened.
Surveillance cameras at a bar on South Riverside Boulevard show the entire frightening crash. Errol Spence Jr. speeding north, losing control in a right-hand turn, hitting the center median and flipping multiple times, narrowly missing a light pole. Police say he was not wearing a seatbelt. He was ejected from the Ferrari. Fortunately, the cloud of dust obscuring where the boxer landed in the street. It was just before 3 a.m. The mangled Ferrari reiterates just how destructive this single car crash was and how lucky the boxer was to survive. Initially listed in intensive care but expected to pull through at Methodist Dallas Medical Center. The 29-year-old from DeSoto is widely considered one of the best pound-for-pound boxers in the world. The undefeated welterweight boxing champ lives and trains in Dallas, has fought and won around the world and at the Star in Frisco and AT&T Stadium, where he counts Cowboys owner Jerry Jones among his friends.
Dallas is a sports city. We're known to have, great athletes come from Dallas, and, I want to be a part of those great athletes and wrote down the history as a great athlete that come from Dallas.
And many of those star athletes had him in their prayers today.
There's a lot of fans of his in this building, in this room, being a Dallas guy, so I was praying for him, hoping he can get back on track.
Nothing but thoughts and prayers to him and his family. As a true warrior, know he'll be fine and he'll come out of this strong. Prayers to him.
The unfortunate irony in this frightening surveillance video is that it was captured on cameras at the Knockout Bar on Riverside Boulevard, a bar that has been one of his sponsors. Management here says Spence is a regular visitor and is among the boxers pictured on the wall at what they call the Champion's Corner. A corner now adding its prayers for the champ to recover and be able to explain what happened and why. In Dallas, I'm Kevin Reese.
All right, so that really sucked, but rotating, I think, 500 times, exploding your vehicle, and possibly under the influence of drugs. Clearly, police officers need to investigate this. So TMZ actually recovered some footage from October of 2019 when the event happened, and this shows a little bit of the dialogue and the communication they had with the nursing staff in the ICU.
We should get about 4 mils in each one. Now, I'm not sure how they work.
It usually stops.
Yeah.
So. It's not enough, is it?
If it's all you can get, it's all you can get. 8, 9, 10. All right.
That's all?
Hey!
That's nice. Is that,
It's an FM Columbia. It's wonderful. A little all jacked up right now, but
I don't think it is, but
it's still loaded, so be careful with it.
yes, sir.
It's got a bent bridge on the back, so I don't want to smear all my hands.
FM?
The heart rate, the temp
You get that right?
Yeah, everything's on there.
What? It's only $1,000 gun.
So we got the handgun out of the street. That's good. Yeah, I was walking along and he just kind of, it was just laying there.
Was he okay? Or he's low sick?
Yeah, kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
And if he was thrown out like that, I would say low sick.
That's Errol Spence, the boxing sport. Name is very huge because he's from here.
So he is a boxing guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he told me his name. I never heard of him.
Yeah, he's very famous. Well, became famous. One of his events was at the Cowboy Stadium.
All right, so for the footage is actually taken out of an ICU. You can hear some little beeps and vents settings going off. The blue lining that's going into his mouth, that's called a ET tube or endotracheal tube, and it's connected to like a low vacuum suction. So as the person is coughing, the sputum can be taken out. Also, you can get aerosol air, and it connects to the machine to give you ventilator support. So clearly the car accident was quite severe, that it put him in the ICU, and it looks like they intubated him for respiratory failure. So usually when you have car accidents like this, you can have what is called a pneumothorax, tension pneumothorax. These are types of lung injuries which cause the lung to actually collapse on itself, and you need to decompress the lung. So that's probably why they may have intubated him. And also, you know, if you have brain trauma from, say, such a vehicle accident like this, if you impact your brain, you can also impact your respiratory centers. So you may not be breathing at, say, a normal rate of 16 breaths a minute. You may be breathing at, say, 5 breaths a minute. And again, the ventilator would be assisting and bringing your ventilation rate to 16 so that you can have normal oxygen exchange and normal CO2 ventilation. So the other thing that the police officers were worried about is they have an agenda and the medical staff has an agenda, and I always get, it's not really arguments, it's just kind of a weird interplay when we have to deal with that. So a lot of patients that come to my hospital are always in a 5150 or a police hold for some psychiatric issue or violent behavior, and the police officer needs to make a case for the admission. So what they like to do is get blood work, essentially proving that the blood work was not the cause of the patient's actions. Like, say, a metabolic issue like a low sodium, you can have confusion and become violent and have delirium, but they want to rule that out. But the other thing is they also want to test for drugs. So drugs, I'll post a little video after this of a little, they're called half-lives. And half-life basically is how long the drug is going to stay in your body, and how fast it's going to be metabolized. So that's essentially the window of time that you have to get the blood test, because otherwise it'll become negative, right? So alcohol has a metabolized time. If you do it too late, the drug screen is going to be negative, and then the officers can't have any clues. So it's very important to get the drug screen immediately, but also, you know, I don't like the police officers. They interfere with a lot of things. And plus, if you ever worked with a police officer in the medical field, I would love to feel your feedback on how that is. But from my take, I think they get in the way, and they don't really know much from the medical side, because they're not trained. All they're trained really is basic life support, which is like breathing, CPR. But when it comes to like advanced stuff, they are lost, and they'll look dumb, ghost blankly in your eyes with no reaction until paramedics come. So I don't know where I was going with this, but that's kind of the summing of the video. And let's talk about drug half-lives. All right, so this is a pretty interesting slide, and it comes from the the American Addiction Centers. So if you have an addiction to drugs and you're trying to bypass or essentially pass your drug screen, here's the information you need to know. But in seriousness, this is the timeline that police officers are working with if they're trying to build a case against you. If you crash your Ferrari and cause an array and have a loaded gun and are really famous and they want to get some compensation from your stupidity. So look at this information very carefully. So if you were to take some heroin, right, and I were to do a drug screen on you, like literally I have about 2 to 6 minutes in order for the drug screen to come back positive. So most of the time it's probably going to be cleared by the car ride or the ambulance ride to the hospital. But look at cocaine. You have a 1 hour window. So that's a big thing that the police officers are trying to do. I don't know the exact time when they arrive to the ICU and the time of the car crash, but if they made it within an hour window, they could test them for cocaine. Also, marijuana. You know, that's gonna stay in your system for quite a long time. Now that our beautiful state of California has legalized that, no one really gives a crap about marijuana being positive on the drug screen because everybody is in it. And I also believe that marijuana stays in the hair follicles for almost 2 weeks. And that's probably the reason why Britney Spears probably shaved her head, because she was going to lose custody of her children if the court found out she was using marijuana. This was before California legalized it. Big thing in my hospital is everybody is taking meth, sadly, in the San Pedro area, and the drug screens are always positive because look at the metabolite, the drug half-life. It's going to stay in your system for 11 hours, right? So essentially, it's going to clear very slowly. Same thing with MDMA. You're looking at 8 hours. These are just these are drugs, street drugs. They're basically really slow at clearing out of your system. Same thing with amphetamines. And now, if you look at your general painkiller class, oxycodone can last in your system 3 to 5 hours. Now keep in mind this is a drug half-life. So if you consumed 100% of drug in 3 to 5 hours, that 100% will drop to 50%. So in another 3 to 5 hours, that 50% will drop to 25%. So it still will be positive in your system because of that half-life. Whereas heroin will clear out of your system very quickly. Again, morphine, depending on the type of morphine, it can clear very quickly or long. If it's called what is called an enteric-coated extended release morphine, you'll get that 7-hour window. If it's just a quick-acting, immediate release called morphine IR, it may be a shorter period, maybe the 1 or 2 hour half-life. And then fentanyl, you can see it's about 3 to 12 hours, and that's also based on the pharmacology and the manufacturing of the type of drug. So that explains a little bit of half-life, why the police officers want to get into the ICU, draw up a quick sample, and really build a case for themselves. And I believe the result was they did find that he was positive for alcohol, and then they got him for a DUI. So imagine that. You just crashed like a $200,000, $300,000 Ferrari, and instead of getting any sympathy by the police, they slap a DUI charge on you. And then they slap a gun holding, you know, I don't know if he had a permit for the gun, but they probably get a case on that as well. So know your drug half-lives. All right, so another thing that I just want to kind of touch on is that granted the police officers are making a case against him and charging him with DUI and probably weapon possession, his lawyers, or essentially smart lawyers, can also come back and drop all the charges, because there's this beautiful thing called HIPAA. And HIPAA essentially is you can't violate the patient's privacy and blast all their medical stuff out in the public world. And essentially this is what happened. It got released. His medical footage got released to TMZ, and now it made public. I don't think he wanted to be shown intubated in a coma in an ICU. And a lot of that could be damaging to his reputation, right? It could also harm the family. It also could bring bad outcome by posting these things. So I don't know the legalities of it, being that this was a body footage camera and it was for a police case, but that's fine and all in a closed door setting. But when you leak it out to TMZ, that is where you cross the legal boundaries. So somebody is going to get sued, and it's going to be whoever leaked that footage. And probably TMZ is going to take a hit as well on how they got that. So I think this boxer is going to be able to get some compensation if he needs to, because they did violate HIPAA. And because I don't think it's the medical staff that had access to the video, because the video was on a body cam by the police officer, so it's going to be tied in with the police department. So I'm interested, and if you guys know any details, I'm just speculating, like I don't got time to kind of just go through all these nitty-gritty details, but if you guys know if there was a lawsuit for some privacy infringement or so, shoot a comment below, and we could talk about HIPAA and kind of educate me a little bit more about the case. But you know, the world is crazy out there. Be safe. Don't crash your Lambos or your Ferraris. And obviously, I don't have to tell you this, but drinking and driving is equivalent to even, say, prescription influenced or whatever prescription medications impacting your driving. They're both linked and classified as DUIs, driving under the influence. So if you're on a new medication and you don't know how it interacts with you, you probably should sit out on the sidelines before you start driving your vehicle. Say like the doc gave you a new prescription of Wellbutrin or Xanax, you probably want to know the side effects, because if you're driving altered, police officer does not give a crap if you started a new medication. It's still driving under the influence, and you get the same exact penalty as being belligerently drunk on alcohol. So once again, thanks for joining the channel. Sorry if the video ran a little late, you know, the world with children. I got a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old. Oh my God, she just turned 10 months old. Is insane. So the videos will post weirdly and irregularly. And again, the only free time I have is in the office. Otherwise, you'd be hearing my kids screaming their brains out. But take care, guys. If you have any questions, just give me a feedback, give me a comment below, and we can continue this journey of exploring medicine. See ya.